مع سعادة سفير النمسا السيد ماريان وربا، سعادة سفير النمسا في لبنان، برحب فيكم أنا جويل وطلة جديدة وبرنامج جديد من سفرة مع سفير. بحييكم مشاهدينا. Guten Morgen.
Good morning, bonjour.
Bonjour. Hope all is well, Your Excellency.
Perfect, and I'm grateful that you invited me to present my home country to the Lebanese people.
You're most welcome here, Your Excellency, Ambassador of Austria to Lebanon. We will see a short video about Austria and then we will get back to the studio.
Yes.
Österreich, das Land der Alpen. Berühmt für seine klassische Musik. Doch wo liegt Österreich eigentlich? Die Republik Österreich befindet sich in Zentraleuropa, und zwar genau hier. Zwischen der Tschechischen Republik, Deutschland, der Slowakei, Ungarn, Slowenien, Italien, der Schweiz und Liechtenstein. Wie die meisten seiner Nachbarstaaten ist auch Österreich ein Mitglied der Europäischen Union. Die Flagge des Landes ist rot-weiß-rot. Die Hauptstadt von Österreich ist Wien. Österreich besteht aus 9 Bundesländern mit eigenen Hauptstädten und hat insgesamt mehr als 8 Millionen Einwohner. Davon haben etwa 1 Million eine ausländische Staatsbürgerschaft. Jede 5. Person in Österreich hat Migrationshintergrund. Österreich hat eine ausgeprägte Land- und Forstwirtschaft. Der Großteil der Beschäftigten ist aber in Industrie und Gewerbe oder im Dienstleistungssektor tätig. Österreich ist eines der reichsten Länder der Europäischen Union und exportiert im Jahr Waren im Wert von rund 130 Milliarden Euro. Österreich ist zu einem Großteil von den Alpen bedeckt und daher bergig bis hügelig. Der höchste Berg ist der Großglockner mit etwa 3800 Metern. Zwar hat Österreich keinen Zugang zum Meer, aber dafür zahlreiche Seen. Im Norden fließt der längste Fluss, die Donau. An ihr liegt Österreichs Hauptstadt mit 1,7 Millionen Einwohnern.
Österreich, Your Excellency, ist ein schönes Land. Österreich, Austria, and Nemsa in Arabic. First, it's my great pleasure to host you here in Miriam TV Plateau today. And with you, Your Excellency, you're going to have a virtual trip to Austria in order to get to know more about this lovely country. The largest city and the capital is Vienna. And it's comprising nowadays 9 federated states.
Yes.
If you're going to start with a map, geographically speaking, we want to see the bordering countries of the country.
Yes. Thank you for your kind words, Joel. And let me point out that we say the same about Lebanon. So also Lebanon, it's a lovely country and we have a lot of similarities, being the skiing in the Alps in Austria or here in the mountains. We don't have a beach, but we sport the same beauties of the nature.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Austria is coming back to your question, Austria is situated in Central Europe. We say, or we like to say, Austria is in the heart of Europe. Austria is surrounded by several countries. To start in the north, it's Germany, Czech Republic, Slovak Republic, Hungary, Slovenia, Italy, Switzerland, and a small state between Switzerland and Austria called Liechtenstein.
We will see on the monitor now on the geographical map the bordering countries, as you said, Your Excellency, bordering Austria.
Austria is in the heart of Europe, surrounded by many countries, and that makes for Austria the neighborhood policy very important. So for us it's very, very important to be in close, tight contacts with our neighbors, and we depend on our neighbors politically, economically, but also in the way of tourism.
Okay, and as we see and we understand that it is a member in the visa, the Schengen states.
Yes, Austria since January 1st, 1995 is a member of the European Union. Together with Sweden and Finland in 1995 we joined the European Union, which in those days consisted of 12 and then of 15 states. Nowadays the European Union consists of 28 or in future 27 states, so it's a full success story. And also in 1999, the European countries agreed within the Schengen, so-called Schengen regime, to abolish all borders inside the European Union. This means that nowadays you can travel from the very north to the very south, from Sweden to Italy, from Portugal to Austria and Hungary. But this means also that these countries had the challenge and the necessity to harmonize their visa system. So we have a common visa system, all these members of the Schengen states, and these are called Schengen visa.
40 years UN in Austria. What can you tell us about this very important info?
This year, 2019, we celebrate 40 years United Nations in Vienna. 40 years ago, the United Nations decided to ask Vienna to be the third, nowadays fourth, UN capital in the world. So the United Nations has 4 headquarters. It's New York, Geneva, Vienna in Austria, and Nairobi in Africa.
Exactly. This is amazing.
Maybe if I may add, in Vienna we have several very important UN agencies, inter alia the International Agency
Let's start
for Energy
with UNIDO.
And UNIDO.
Exactly.
And UNIDO is also present here in Lebanon. It's the United Nations Industrial Development Organization.
And it's very active.
And it's very active.
Exactly.
In Lebanon, and the headquarters, so the reports of the UNIDO here in Lebanon, go to Vienna.
Your Excellency, Mr. Marian وربا, we want to go or to move to the flag of the country and see the colors of the flag.
The Austrian colors are red, white, red. It's a very catchy combination. The reason is that the Austrian flag, the Austrian colors were one of the first flags in the world about in the 12th century, and as Austria was one of the first countries who chose to have a flag, a national symbol.
The simplest colors.
Exactly,
and the softest
the most simple and most catchy colors.
It looks like Lebanon. We just need only the cedar. The cedar is missing, the green cedar, and it is substituted with the eagle. What can you tell us?
Exactly. Austria and Lebanon have the same colors. We both are united in red, white, red. In Austria, we we're quite very proud on this fact. And in Austria, we say, this is a story we have also in our history books, that the colors of the Lebanese Republic, red, white, red, were actually inspired by the Austrian colors. And this is an Austrian history. We don't, of course, we don't know if it's actually happened like this or not, but it's a very nice story. We say that in October 1943, the founding fathers of the new Lebanese Republic met in the house, I think it was of the former Prime Minister Salam, to speak about what shall be the colors of the flag of Lebanon. And before, in the Mandat time, it was the tricolor, so it was blue, white, and red. And they discussed, and we say that the foreign minister, Henri Pharaon, proposed in this round of these 5 or 6 founding fathers.
Henri Pharaon.
Henri Pharaon, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
What about taking the colors of Austria, red, white, red, because this is the best and most catchy combinations. And we say that the other founding fathers said, okay, let's take it. So they agreed unanimously. And they agreed to take red, white, red. And the background of this is that Henri Pharaon had before honorary consul in Austria. So his family for a very, very long time had a very close relationship to Austria. The family still has a relationship. Ancestors and also descendants of the family. And Henri Pharaon was also for a very long time the founder and then president of the Austrian-Lebanese Friendship Society, which still exists today in Lebanon. And so this symbolizes actually the close connections in the history between Lebanon and Austria. I think I've also brought you a picture where you see the original Lebanese flag with the signatures of the founding fathers.
There is a photo exactly for you, Your Excellency, with the Lebanese flag as we
In
see now
Muawad.
on the monitor. This is it. This signature, if we put the monitor on a very close loop, we can see the old and the very important signatures of remarkable persons throughout Lebanese history.
In October 1943. Yeah.
So, talking again about the flag, Your Excellency, we understand that there is an old flag and a recent one. And this moving from old to recent one, how long did it take throughout history, and approximately from which date?
The Austrian colors origin probably from the 12th to 13th century. This we don't know exactly.
Yes.
But for a very, very long time until today, the Austrian flag is just red, white, red without anything inside. So it's just a combination. But about 30 years ago, the Austrian federal offices, so the official flags, but only for representatives of the states, decided to put the Austrian eagle into it.
Okay.
So you can still see when you go around in Austria, so normal buildings have the red, white, red flag, and state government buildings have the red, white, red flag with the eagle in it. This also in order to make it visible that Lebanon has the green cedar, and
Austria
we have
has
the black eagle inside. Yeah.
Exactly. And if we go back to history, Your Excellency, we can see some common features between the population. It's not about only the colors of the flag, the red and white colors, but dating back to Ottoman Empire, we can say that the population has some common features in characters and so on. Do you agree with me?
I fully agree with you, Joel. Actually, Austria for a very long time has been the northern neighbor of the Ottoman Empire. So Austria was directly bordering the Ottoman Empire.
And Lebanon, the southern side of
exactly,
the same.
was the southern side.
Exactly.
And for sure, for this very long time, these cultural influences of mutual exchange of culture mentality determined and made us in many aspects similar, I would say, and this is from my experience here in Lebanon, I would say it's the savoir-vivre, the style, the elegance.
Ethical behaviors.
Behaviors in many aspects, the mentality, also the sense for the beautiful and nice things in life, and also in a more practical thing when you come to Austria, and particularly Vienna. Vienna is famous for its coffee houses.
Yes.
This we learned from the Turks to drink Turkish coffee.
On the Dervishi way.
Exactly. In Austria we make it now a little bit different. We add milk because the black coffee would be too strong. But the way to enjoy in a coffee house is a cup of coffee. In former days have a smoke. Like in former days you enjoyed the Arabic coffee with the nargila.
Perfectly true.
This is also one of the signs, and also we can come to it also in our language. Austria speaks German, but with a distinctive accent.
Das ist sehr schön, and they have the three main official languages that are Slovenian,
Hungarian,
German, and Hungarian.
Exact, but the main language and the official language is German. So it's written exactly the same like in Germany. But we speak it with a distinctive, different accent, with an Austrian accent.
Okay, Your Excellency, before folding the question of the flag, as we see here this eagle, officially or historically speaking, what can you tell us more?
The symbol, state symbol or coat of the arms of Austria is the eagle.
Okay.
The eagle had several adaptations. Originally, in the old times of the empire, it had two heads. In the Republic in 1918, they changed it to one head. The origins of this eagle are very, very old. It represents the Roman heritage of Austria. Austria has been part of the Roman Empire in the olden times.
Okay.
And later the eagle was also taken to Byzance. And many countries which had some cultural connection with the Byzantine Empire, be it Russia, be it Serbia, be it Albania, be it Austria, still have the eagle as their coat of arms.
And we know, Your Excellency, that Austria has a very long history. What can you tell us about this old history?
Austria for sure cannot match in history with the Phoenicians, with Lebanon, which started with the Phoenicians 3,000 years ago, and you settled Carthago, you reached the coast of Spain.
Yes.
You invented the alphabet. So Lebanon for sure has an absolute unique place. Jbeil, Saida, Sur, the oldest cities in the world.
Unique platforms for tourism.
Exactly. But or in history, exactly. With this we cannot imagine, compare. But Austria still has a very old history. So we were part of the Roman Empire, of the old Latin Roman Empire. And we say that the Austria in its present form, called in German we say Österreich, which means empire in the eastern, was documented already in 996, so more than 1,000 years ago.
Yes, and I have a question for you, Your Excellency. I'm a translator, and as I translate all the names of these countries, I notice that Austria, its translation is النمسا. Other European countries, they have this Arabization input. Why Austria bears this translation, which is not in Arabic Austria, but it is النمسا? What's the secret behind this accurate or this different translation from other countries' name?
Actually, we are very proud on it that Austria really has a genuine own Arabic name, because this is an indicator of a very, very old and long relationship. And the reasons of it is not exactly known.
Okay.
But we can guess that as Austria has been in the heart of Europe, and between was before first the Byzantine Empire and later the Ottoman Empire. So Austria was a more or less direct contact point to the Arabic world, and particularly Syria, mixture. Lebanon, exactly. Particularly in trade, Austria had for a long time controlled the end of the so-called Levante trade. So Trieste and other ports were Austrian in the north of the Mediterranean Sea, in the Adria. And the trade from Trieste along all the coast, going down Tripoli, Beirut, Saida, and up to even Alexandria. This was a lot of done with Austrian merchant vessels.
So we can say that this linguistic impact played a major role throughout naming
and shows
the country.
It's an indicator that the relationship between Austria and the Arabic world is a very, very old one and very long one.
Another question, Mr. Ambassador. How did Austria throughout history cope or could cope from this big empire to a very small state?
That's a very good question, because also this shows certain similarities with the Lebanese history. In 1918, the Austrian Empire collapsed. This put us loaded huge economic, social, political problems on Austria.
We can say turmoils.
Turmoils and particularly high unemployment rate. The Austrian economy and industry in those days was organized for the empire and not for a small state in those days of 6.5 million inhabitants. And the first 20 years of the Austrian history of the Austrian Republic after 1918 were a history of a lot of conflicts, and the saddest, lowest point in this history were two civil wars in 1934. So in 1934 we had two, malheureusement, very bloody civil wars. Unfortunately, in July 1934, even the Austrian Prime Minister
so
was
grand
killed.
théâtre de bataille. Un grand théâtre de bataille.
I could say, yes.
Yes.
And the problems ended in the civil war simmered on, and it led that in 1938 a considerable majority of the Austrians welcomed the invasion of Germany, of German soldiers, as a potential solution to this end to this civil war.
Yes.
But de facto this was wrong. It led to the Second World War with hundreds of thousands of deaths in Austria, 60,000 Austrian political prisoners who died, more than several hundred thousand of also Jewish Austrians expelled, more than 60,000 of them killed. So it was a complete catastrophe, World War II.
So you can say that the land was dramatically devastated
it was
at this time.
Dramatically devastated, but in 1945, at the end of World War II, the Austrian politicians took the lesson, and also the Austrian people, and said, we can only prosper and the country can only work if we have peace, if we cooperate, and if we accept our differences and work for the state, for the country and the population. And since 1945, you see a steady upwards development of Austria, politically and economically.
Your Excellency, now Austria, we understand that it comprises 9 federated states,
Yes.
and every state has its own parliament, government,
Yes.
and we understand that the President of the Republic is elected by the population.
Yes.
What can you tell us more about this decentralization or separate system of election and voting in every state first, and more about this voting by the people, please?
That Austria consists, as you mentioned, of 9 federal states. This is historically reasons, also dating back more than 1,000 years, that several, if you go really back into history, there were probably several tribes, Tyroleans, Styrians, Carinthians, who united and formed this kind of Austria which still exists today. Out of these traditional reasons, these federal states have a certain autonomy, so they have, as you mentioned, own parliaments, also own governments, and also own heads of these federal states. On the other hand, we have a central federal government in Vienna. So this is why also in Austria the title, formal title of the Austrian Prime Minister is called Federal Chancellor. Okay. And also our ministries are federal ministries. And for instance, I, as a diplomat, I'm part of the Federal Ministry for Europe, Integration and External Affairs.
That's why the population always elects and votes for the President of the Republic of the country.
This is a solution which was found in olden days. The Austrian Parliament voted for the president, and then in
Mr. Alexander
van der Bellen nowadays.
Exactly.
Then already in 1929 it was altered that the Austrian people directly elect the president in order to form a kind of a role. So you have the president, which is strong political backing because he's elected directly by the people. Then you have the government and the parliament.
Vienna is the capital of Austria, Mr. Marian, and it's the very beautiful city, the largest city. It comprises a lot of high architecture, mixture of old and recent ones. We will see now on the monitor some photos.
This is the landscape of Vienna. Thank you for telling me. I'm Viennese, so I'm happy to present my own hometown where I grew up. In the front you can see the national monument of Vienna. It's St. Stephen Cathedral. In the back you see the United Nations headquarters, the so-called UN city. This is also a landmark of Vienna. It's the giant wheel. It's about the same age like the French Tour d'Eiffel.
Tour Eiffel.
Tour Eiffel.
Tour Eiffel built by Gustave
Eiffel. Exactly. And this was a similar construction built by some, I think, English engineers. But this was the time where people were very, very proud to have steel constructions. This is the summer residence of the Austrian emperors, called Schönbrunn. It's a beautiful piece of Baroque.
Largest space.
It's a large space.
Dotted with green spaces.
This is also a very important church in Vienna. It's called St. Charles. The interesting point, as I mentioned before, is the connection, the strong influence of Ottoman culture and exchange, and you can see here there is a certain influence. It was built in the Baroque times, but you can see from the style of the two minarets in the front and the back that there is a clear inspiration of Ottoman architecture in this piece of Baroque church, which is about 300 years old.
It's a main touristic spot.
It's a main touristic spot. This is the summer the residence of Prince Eugenio de Savoy,
Wow.
the so-called Belvedere. It's also one of the most beautiful pieces of Baroque architecture. And also here you can see an influence of Ottoman architecture. The rooftops in the middle and on the right and left were, and this is known, inspired by Turkish tents.
Okay. And again, as we see,
This is the Austrian parliament in Vienna in the form of a Greek temple paying tribute that democracy was invented in ancient Greek more than 2,600 years ago.
and the official black eagle.
And exactly, and the flag, if you can see it, has the black eagle on it because
Exactly.
it's an official government building.
Okay.
In the front, that's the Danube River. Vienna is situated along the Danube River, and the Danube River has been very important for the history of Austria. And in olden days, you also called the Austrian Empire, later Austrian-Hungarian Empire, the so-called Danube Empire.
Tell us more about this Danube Empire, Your Excellency.
The Danube is one of the largest rivers in Europe.
Okay.
It starts in Germany, then it goes along Austria, continues to Slovakia, Hungary, and ends Serbia, Romania,
Wow.
and ends up in the Black Sea. And it has been always, since the history, a major traffic route, particularly in the olden days, because people used this big river as a main artery of traffic for shipping goods and products.
A nice video about Vienna.
Hi, I'm Tom. I'm here from the Vienna Tourist Board at the stunning Hotel Altstadt to show you around my beautiful hometown. Vienna is Austria's capital, located in the northeast of the country, towards the Slovak and Czech border. It's so easy to fly directly into Vienna International Airport from different hubs in North America. But if you are already in Europe, Austria's roads and train system are excellent, easy ways to get around. Now, I'll give you a quick rundown of how visitors can best experience Vienna. First, to see a glimpse of the city's imperial history, you'll want to visit the old Habsburg palaces, such as the Imperial Palace, Schönbrunn Palace, and Belvedere Palace. They're full of opulent architecture, stunning gardens, and fascinating European history. For arts and culture, I recommend the Kunsthistorisches Museum, full of paintings by the old masters, and the Museumsquartier, which houses modern Austrian art by painters like Egon Schiele and Gustav Klimt. A third reason to visit Vienna, the unsurpassed cuisine. Go to one of Vienna's famous turn-of-the-century coffee houses for delicious pastries, breakfast, or a classic Viennese lunch. More adventurous travelers can also visit a Heurigen tavern in Vienna's vineyards. There, vintners make their own wine and serve it with traditional Viennese comfort food. That's my quick take on the highlights of Vienna.
Your Excellency, Mr. Márien وربا, again, you're most welcome in Meriam TV Plateau, Ambassador of Austria to Lebanon.
Thank you, Joel.
It's a great honor to have you among us, really.
Thank you, Joel.
Coming back to the studio and to the plateau of Meriam TV, as we have seen before the break, this very nice video about Vienna, the basket of culture, the basket of high heritage, and the real identity and the patrimony of the country. What can you tell us?
Thank you for your kind words. Austria is quite a big city in Central Europe. It has almost 2 million inhabitants. Austria in total has about 9 million inhabitants, so it's comparatively big. The reason why it's so big is because it was in former days the capital of a very large empire of more than 50 million people. This is why also Vienna over the time developed in a kind of treasury box of fine and beautiful architecture. You find particularly architecture, as you saw it, of the Baroque time and also of the 19th century.
A very fine architecture, very well tailored and highly tailored, really.
Thank you.
And now if you want to go to Innsbruck, we know that Innsbruck is a main destination for Lebanese. They go every summer. What's the secret behind that? And what's about the Lebanese community in Austria in general, please?
Innsbruck is the capital of Tyrol. It's in the very west. And the charm of Innsbruck is that it's a city situated in the middle of the mountains. So it's in a valley surrounded by mountains, and a lot of tourists use Innsbruck as a kind of hub when they spend their either winter holidays or also summer holidays in Austria, because when you are based in Innsbruck you can do a lot of things, enjoying the lakes in the summer.
Relaxing activities.
Exactly, relaxing, mountaineering, climbing mountains, and particularly in the winter you can go skiing in Tyrol.
And especially that Lebanese people, by nature, they are very enthusiastic, and they love activities in the full of the nature, or in the heart of the nature.
And I'm always pleased to meet Lebanese whenever I go there, and I spend my summer vacations in summer also in Austria. I'm always happy to meet actually Lebanese tourists in Innsbruck or Vienna, and as the Lebanese are very open, so I know a lot of people, and I'm always happy, my wife and me, to meet even people in Austria from Beirut or from Lebanon, which we personally know, and we saw each other in Beirut, and then we meet each other by chance in Austria. That's always very nice.
Now, before we see a short video about Innsbruck on the monitor, allow me to send my very warmest regards to Mrs. Tatiana Werba, your wife.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you.
My very best
I
regards to
Thank
her.
you.
Thank you. A short video will show about Innsbruck, and back to studio.
Hi, I'm Peter, an Innsbruck native. I'm here from the Innsbruck Tourism Board to introduce you to the highlights of my stunning hometown. Innsbruck is located in the west of Austria, surrounded by the soaring Alps. You can fly to Innsbruck Airport from a number of European cities. But if you want to take the scenic route, just use Austria's beautiful roads and trains to get here. Locals call Innsbruck the capital of the Alps, because it combines three things you rarely find in the same place: rich history, a bustling urban center, and the incredible alpine outdoors. There are a few things you absolutely must see while you're in Innsbruck. Take a walk through the old town and visit the Imperial Palace, the Court Church, and the iconic Golden Roof, landmarks that show Innsbruck's Habsburg history. And don't forget Ambros Castle, now a fantastic museum of fine art, weapons, and other imperial treasures. But honestly, the best way to see Innsbruck is from above. You can either go up the Bergisel Olympic ski jump or take the Nordkette cable car from the old town. It climbs over 6,500 feet in just 20 minutes. And no visit to Innsbruck is complete without a stop at the Swarovski Crystal Worlds, part outdoor theme park and part museum. It's a great place to find a souvenir to bring home. Don't forget your Innsbruck card. You'll get access to tons of sites, plus all public transport and all cable cars. I know you'll be happy with your stay here. It's a place like no other.
And I know, in my capacity as anchor woman, again, why they are happy. The Lebanese people are so happy to stay there too. I add to this nice anchor man throughout the screen. And I understand why it's a very nice area to be, and why Lebanese are highly attracted to such area, really.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you.
With all these cable cars, skiing resorts, skiing spots, and palaces and castles, very nice palaces and castles to Mr. Ambassador. Now, moving to Salzburg, we can say that this is the capital of music, and especially let us not forget Mozart.
Exactly, Salzburg is famous for its architecture as well as very rich cultural life. So every year, several times at Easter, but also in summer, they have a famous festival, the so-called Salzburger Festspiele, where the best orchestras and best musicians and best performers of the world give performances. They give it also outdoors and indoors, and there's a huge number of visitors coming from all over the world.
And during which months does it
This
happen?
is in July and August, the main
August.
summer.
International performance or only local?
International, really the best orchestras and also the best musicians from all over the world.
So we can say the best basket for music performance, and the music is a therapy for the soul, we can say.
Proud of Mozart, and even latest research say that the melodies of Mozart have a very
therapy.
soothing and very relaxing effect on people, particularly people who are in stress.
Exactly, perfectly true. We will see on the monitor now Salzburg and get back to the studio.
Yes.
Christi, I'm Clemens from Salzburg. I'm here from the Salzburg Tourism Board, and today I'm going to show you how my city got its nickname, the Rome of the North. Like Rome, Salzburg has a deep and fascinating relationship with the Catholic Church. You can see that in the stunning churches that fill the city. Fun fact, Salzburg has only been a part of Austria for around 200 years. Before, it was ruled independently by the Prince Archbishop, making it the second largest church state in the world, after the Vatican, of course. Even today, the Archbishop of Salzburg enjoys special status within the Catholic Church and is one of the Church's most important dignitaries. You can visit one of Salzburg's 50 churches on your own, but if you take a pre-booked tour, you'll learn the real secrets hidden within the ancient walls. Museums are also a great way to dive into Salzburg's unique history. Try the Salzburg Domquartier, the largest museum for Baroque history north of the Alps. It connects the Prince Archbishop's residence, the cathedral, and St. Peter Monastery. No Salzburg stay is complete without attending a live performance of sacred music. Thanks in part to Mozart's legacy, Salzburg's sacred music scene still thrives today. Listening to sacred music in a historic church or concert hall is a truly unforgettable experience. That should give you a start in exploring Salzburg's sacred history.
Indeed, Your Excellency, listening to sacred music is one of a second one. An amazing number, 50 churches in Salzburg. What's about religion? Can you tell us more?
Austria, of course, like many European countries, have a close connection to the history of, to the development of religion in Europe. This begins with the Christianization of the Roman Empire in the 4th century.
Okay.
Also, when Austria was a large empire, we had in Austria 12 nations living in the Austrian Empire, and also main 5 religions. And 2 things which are maybe relevant also to our relations to Lebanon. Also in the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, there was a very large number of Greek Catholics, and the relation to Lebanon is that the Austrian Empire for a long time was also the patron of the Melkite Church in Lebanon. So you had France and the Maronites, Russia and the Orthodox, and Austria, and as with the Greek Melkites.
We can say a crossroad.
This is exactly, these are the relations, and for instance, the Melkite Greek Catholic cathedral in Sachle was built by donations from the Austrian population in the 19th century.
Amazing.
And-
Amazingly fantastic.
This is interesting, and it is also important to note also the Islam was an official acknowledged religion in the Austrian-Hungarian Empire as it's today. So Islam, Greek Orthodox, Greek Catholic, Latin Catholic and Protestant were the official acknowledged state religions in the old Austrian Empire as they are nowadays in the Republic of Austria.
Let's go now. Let's fly to Habsburg Treasure. A video will be shown now on the monitor.
Hi, I'm Tom, a Vienna native. I'm here from the Vienna Tourist Board at the wonderful Hotel Altstadt to introduce you to my city's imperial treasures. Vienna was the seat of the Habsburg Empire for the better part of 400 years. That means it was more or less the center of European politics. To see this incredible imperial legacy, visitors should start at the Ring Boulevard, which circles the historic city center. This boulevard, which was once the old city wall, is lined by many of the most important Habsburg landmarks. You'll see the Vienna State Opera, the museums of natural history and fine arts, and most importantly, the Imperial Palace. The Imperial Palace was the official seat of power for the Habsburg Empire. Today, it is the office and residence of Austria's president. Two things you can't miss at the Imperial Palace: the Spanish Riding School, with its iconic dressage performances, and the Imperial Treasury, which has the original Habsburg crown jewels on display. If you're in the mood for another palace, try the Schönbrunn Palace. This was the imperial summer residence, and it is absolutely worth the short subway ride from the city center. Visitors should take the time to walk the stunning rooms of this Baroque palace and enjoy its park. Plus, it features the world's oldest zoo. That's it for my intro to Vienna's Habsburg legacy. I hope you'll come visit to experience it for yourself.
Your comment, Mr. Ambassador, about this very nice video, and really treasures. They are really treasures.
The video showed very nice the rich cultural heritage of Vienna. I want to change a little bit the topic concerning Vienna, as I'm Viennese, and I also want to point out other aspects of Vienna. Vienna is also famous for its gourmet kitchen. As Austria was this capital, also the Austrian, in particular the Viennese cuisine, was influenced by a lot of influences from other parts of the empire, influences from the Czech, from Slovakia, from Hungary, and from Italy. And these influences, together with the native Austrian kitchen, formed this unique Viennese cuisine.
A culinary mixed art, we can say that.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And I think one of the most famous dishes of Austria is the so-called Viennese escalope de Vienne. We call it Wiener Schnitzel.
Wiener Schnitzel.
Wiener Schnitzel. It's usually an escalope of veal or tender pork meat, and it's coated with a panade of breadcrumbs, served with boiled potatoes and a salad.
It looks delicious, Mr. Ambassador.
I think it is delicious.
And what's about this dessert?
This is the so-called Kaiserschmarrn. This means imperial crepe. It consists of pancakes, crepes, which are prepared in a special way. This has a special tradition. It was usually served at the Austrian imperial court, and the Austrian imperial court was a very humble and parsimonious one, so this was usually done by the leftovers of crepes. And
how many calorie intake?
Considerable. You can afford it. I should not afford it.
I can say that. It's a
Exactly.
lot
It's
of calorie intake, indeed.
How to but good, delicious.
Delicious. It looks like being very delicious. And
Here-
this one?
This is the so-called Apfelstrudel. This is made of millefeuille
Millefeuille.
and a special millefeuille and apples. This is a very traditional Viennese dessert.
Apple inserted millefeuille.
Exactly. And Austrians love it, and what I know also Lebanese love this Apfelstrudel. What you say here, it's the famous, most posh dish in the Viennese cuisine. It's the so-called Tafelspitz. It's a boiled rump steak, served with horseradish, sauce tartare, and roasted mashed potatoes. It's posh, not because it's so expensive. It tastes very good, but it's posh because this was the favorite traditional dish at the Austrian imperial court. So the emperor served this to his guests. And also usually if you give very, very official dinners in Austria and you
We
host
use this
important people, you usually
recipe.
serve this classical boiled beef dish called Tafelspitz.
Do we have any Austrian restaurant in Lebanon to the best of your knowledge as in your capacity as ambassador of Austria to Lebanon?
We have excellent Lebanese restaurants in Vienna.
Okay.
But we have some Austrian restaurants here, but we have a problem that the Lebanese cuisine, it's absolute unique and excellent, so
Yes.
the competition would be too high. So
I don't believe the Lebanese cuisine will be or will stand to the equal of excellency like
I may say it can.
like the Austrian
Look,
one.
and that's the hard stand here in Lebanon. It's very, very difficult to compete with Lebanese cuisine.
Yes.
And also Lebanese cuisine, this I may add, is very successful and very popular in Austria and in Vienna.
Exactly. Your Excellency, Mr. Marian وربا, we already talked about gastronomy, but we forgot beverage and white wine production that is skyrocketing in your country. What can you tell us?
Exactly. Vienna is not only known for its dishes, but also for its wine, particularly the Austrian white wine and the Viennese white wine, because the climate of the hills and the soil and the sun is perfect in Vienna, but also in the surrounding in Lower Austria for high quality white wine. It's a bit more difficult for red wine, but it's an excellent place for white wine, and the Austrian white wine, the Viennese white wine, the Austrian white wine.
It must be delicious.
It's delicious and it's very famous, and it's very appreciated also in Vienna.
Does wine production play a major role in economy? Is it a main pillar for economic growth in the country?
Wine production, it's usually for the domestic consumption. We export, but not to a large extent. But a certain edge of Austria is its agriculture, because most of the Austrian agriculture is done in an organic way. So we have more than 18,500 so-called eco-farms in
Healthy
Austria.
way.
Healthy way, where the production of food is done in a ecological, organic way. So not without the use of pesticides and without the use of chemicals. And Austria is quite known and popular in Europe to export high quality organic food, vegetables, but also meat, beef and others. But this is a certain so-called niche product. The major strengths of the Austrian economy and also of the Austrian export are machineries, medical, pharmaceutical equipments, products, and usually high-tech products produced.
And for pharmaceutical industry and workout, is it a very important one for economic growth too?
It is, And one of the strengths of Austria, it has a very good educational system with a certain stress on the so-called vocational training. So we have a very highly qualified workforce. Vocational training. So we have a very highly qualified workforce, which enables us to create these special niche products.
Okay.
And
is a mixture of education between countries available in Austria?
It is, in particularly since Austria joined the European Union, a lot of young people have the possibility in the framework of the Erasmus program to spend an exchange year either at lycée or also later at university in another European country.
And especially for Lebanese, do they go there and study in Austria?
Vienna and Austria is a certain destination. It depends, of course, many subjects are taught in German, but also now increasingly it's possible to study in Austria, particularly in the fields of postgraduate studies in English, and we get more and more applications and more Lebanese students who also accepted at Austrian universities.
Public universities, are they for free?
Public universities have a nominal small fee, but in general they're free.
Okay, amazing.
Let me point out that we are very proud that we have a lot of Lebanese students at the Austrian music universities. So with the Conservatoire de Vienne, which is one, as we say, of the strictest to enter and one of the best worldwide, has an increasing larger number of highly talented young Lebanese musicians who study music at Austrian Musical Conservatoire in Salzburg and Vienna.
Especially that Vienna is the main basket of music and theater performance.
Yes.
Amazing.
This brings me back to also one of the activities of the Austrian embassy. As we know that Lebanon has a number of highly talented musicians who studied in Austria, we always try to combine them with the musical activities of the Austrian embassy here in Lebanon. And one of these most successful events is the yearly annual New Year's concert, which the Austrian embassy helps to organize with the Lebanese Philharmonic Orchestra, usually with an Austrian conductor and a Lebanese soloist, and this we do in the Church Saint-Joseph, and that's every year a huge success.
How proud are you of such talent?
I'm very proud. First, I love music, and I'm proud that Lebanese talented young people chose Austria as a place to study, and then I know someone who studied will be forever a friend of Austria, and I meet a lot of Lebanese musicians who studied in Austria, and I have the feeling that they really like and love Austria, and in these young Lebanese people we found also profound friends of Austria, and this is, of course, as an Austrian I always like to hear if I have the feeling someone likes my country, appreciates it and loves it.
To close up with this second part episode, Your Excellency, we can say that Vienna is a center of musical instrumental performance.
Yes, Austria and particularly Vienna and Salzburg.
Especially classical one.
Particularly classic music, yes.
A small break and get back to studio. عودة لاستوديو مريم تي في من برنامج وطني جديد من سفرة مع سفير. برحب مجددا بسعادة سفير النمسا في لبنان السيد ماريان وربا. So, Your Excellency, thank you for your time.
You're welcome, Joel.
Really,
thank you.
Really, thank you for your time. As we believe that Austria is a main pillar of hydropower, what can you tell us about this hydropower and energy draining, producing all this energy from water, and what are you trying to do in parallel in Lebanon and similar?
Austria consists of 70% of the Austrian territories are mountains, the Alps up to 3,000 meters, and in the east of Austria, which is more flat, we have the Danube River. So Austria has a lot of water, On the one hand, excellent drinking water. On the other hand, we learned very soon to use the power of water as a source for electricity production, because water is renewable and it's free form of energy.
And as we see this turbine.
Yes. This is a turbine in Jue at the Litani River.
Okay.
As Austria has this expertise to create electricity from water, we also have an expertise, and we are world leaders in producing turbines which get out the maximum of energy from water. And this is of course also interesting of Lebanon. You have rivers, but in summer of course you have reduced water in the rivers.
Little bit drained.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And so these Austrian turbines and this Austrian technology is perfect for the Lebanese electricity production from water, which is a free, environmental friendly, renewable and also free form of energy resource. And a lot of turbines also in Lebanon, for instance at the Litani River, are from Austrian production.
So these turbines, will they be exported straightforward or directly from Austria to Lebanon, as I understand from you?
Yes, they are installed, exported already for a long time from the 1960s, but even nowadays from Austria, and then installed here, in, of course, in cooperation with Lebanese technicians and experts.
What are the potential programs to put into execution such energy producing? Anything coming in the near future, or you're still working on it?
I think that the Lebanese state, the state successfully completed now its energy strategy, is in talk with Austrian turbine manufacturers. I've been at some working sites. I was very impressed also by the high engagement of and expertise of Lebanese technicians, and I saw that the renewal and the improvement of energy production, it's important, and of course it's going on. And
hoping for the best.
What I saw until now, I was very impressed.
Amazing. What's about the small and medium enterprises that are the main pillar of economy, Mr. Ambassador?
Austria is economically strong because the backbone of the Austrian economy are small and medium-sized enterprises. This we share with Lebanon. Also Lebanon shares a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises, and that's an advantage because they are more flexible and also more dynamic than large flagship industries. On the other hand, of course, they are depending on experts and cooperation. And a lot of the Austrian production of these specialized small and medium enterprises go to other European states like Italy and Germany. And we say that even in a German car which is exported, there is some statistics say up to 80% of the parts inside the car are actually manufactured in Austria. This is one of the advantages of the European Union, to have this inter-European custom-free exchange of goods and productions.
Amazing. And it's always going to making strategies for economy empowerment and the growth ahead, and very important.
Yes, this helped us to keep the unemployment rate in Austria considerably low. And
what's the rate nowadays, approximately, Mr. Ambassador?
It's less than 5%.
Okay, this is very good.
This is very good.
Comparing to other countries.
Comparing to other countries, and one of the main drivers of this high employment rate in Austria is the very good, excellent qualification of people, particularly in the area of research and development, like developing new hydropower turbines which put out the maximum of energy from water, but of course also in the productive sector, in the vocational training. So we have excellent engineers and also workers, because in Austria this education system and vocational training has been very long time systematized and has a long tradition. And we have also a lot of cooperation programs with Lebanon to exchange knowledge of vocational training, particularly in Lebanon. This is also important for disadvantaged young people who cannot continue a formal education or who have handicapped, but they have to be integrated in the working process in a productive way, and the best way is vocational training, and this is also one of the priorities of the cooperation between Austria and Lebanon, to share the Austrian system, expertise and knowledge in vocational training with Lebanese institutions.
I'm looking forward, Mr. Ambassador, to flying to Austria. Flight time between Beirut to Vienna.
This is, you are now putting your finger to an open wound. To our regret, since already several years, there are no direct flights between Austria and Lebanon, which is a pity, because the distance between Vienna and Beirut is not that far. So you could probably
2 hours and a half?
About 2 hours and a half if you would go direct.
Why no direct flight has been established until current date?
There have been several attempts, and first the Austrian Airlines served direct flights. I think also for some time the Kuwaiti line Wataniya was offering flights from Kuwait, Beirut to Vienna. At the moment, this is a decision of the airlines which we cannot influence. Nowadays, if you want to travel to Vienna, you have to go over either Istanbul, for instance, or Belgrade, or Frankfurt in Germany, or you can choose also alternative routes over Amman or Rome.
Aber das ist nicht schnell.
Leider, regretfully, you will not make it below 6.5 hours.
But we need schneller.
You see here the monastery of Melk. Melk is famous because it's a beautiful piece of Baroque art. It's dominating the Danube Valley, and also the monasteries, and particularly Melk, played a very important role in Austrian history, particularly in the medieval times, as the centers of scholarship, where monks developed the language, the writing, the science and the arts, and also taught it to the people around these monasteries.
So I would say they are linguistic experts.
They have been in history cultural experts. And we also say Austria, we have a lot of monasteries in Austria, and Austria is also called not only Österreich, which is the German name for Austria, but also Klösterreich. So rich in monasteries, cloisters.
We can say rich in Christ.
Yes.
Yes. The second photo, Dachstein panorama.
This is coming to the mountains. The Dachstein is a very popular tourist destination because it sports a gorgeous, beautiful view. It's close to Hallstein, which we will see a bit later. And it's also, you can either climb it if you're good in mountaineering, but you can also use a telepheric. It's hiking, mountaineering. Yes. But if you're less sporty, you can also go up there with cable car, telepheric, and have a beautiful walk on the top, which is flat, with a gorgeous view. And then you can, if you want, go down with the cable car.
Is it far from Vienna?
It's about 2.5 hours away from Vienna.
Okay. And how do we reach the transportation means from Vienna to these touristic spots? How do we reach them? By plane, internal flights, or any other transportation means?
You have internal flights to Innsbruck, but we have an excellent railways, which are very fast and very comfortable. So, for instance, if you go to Vienna, you can just book a railway ride to Salzburg or Innsbruck, which is very comfortable because you just sit down, and it takes you more or less the same time like a plane, because a plane you always have to consider time to check in, to reach the airport, to go from the airport and go back. And usually the railways have the train stations are usually in the city centers, so you can go from the city center more or less of Vienna to the center of Salzburg or Innsbruck by railway. Or, of course, we have the freeways, the Autobahnen. You can, of course, also go with rented cars.
Amazing. Let's visit now Hallstätter.
This is from the view from Dachstein with the Hallstatt lake in the back.
Wow.
It's beautiful. And this is Hallstatt. It's a very picturesque, beautiful little village situated on the Hallstätter See. It's a world tourist attraction.
I would say it's magic.
It is magic.
Really.
And it's particularly popular with Chinese tourists, which come by millions to Hallstatt.
Why Chinese, Your Excellency?
This probably it touches some feelings with them, and in China we know that the Chinese reconstructed this village one-to-one in China as a tourist attraction.
Same one, copy-paste.
The same copy-paste in China, and we are proud on it.
Wow, amazing. And now we want to see the ice cave.
Mm-hmm. In the Alps you have also a lot of very interesting caves. You have caves of ice, and of course, like Jeta Grotto, also caves with stalagmites and stalactites.
And what's about, do you like Jeta Grotto?
I love Jeta Grotto.
What was your first feedback, impression?
I was very, very impressed because it's beautiful, it's large, and I went there with my family. And particularly for adults, but also for the children, it's a gorgeous travel point.
And
also
it's a very nice experience.
A very nice experience, and also very similar to Austria, because you also, to Jeta Grotto, you go to a teleferic, then you go down, then you use a boat to drive in. Very similar. Same concept, and even looking the same like in Austria. I felt almost like at home.
Nice, very nice. And the other photo that will be displayed on the monitor now.
This is a typical
Schutzhütte?
Chalet, exactly, Schutzhütte in the Alps, which you find a lot of these Schutzhütten, usually combined with restaurants where you can get local specialities, are in mountain peaks.
Nice, very nice. And the photo that will be displayed now is for Bad?
This is Bad Ischl. It's a very charming little city. It was the summer resort of the former emperor, and it still preserved its charm and atmosphere of these times.
Special charming atmosphere.
Yes.
Wow, amazing. Your Excellency, looking at all these beautiful sites and very high touristic spots, destinations in Austria, namely Vienna, and all these largest and beautiful cities, what is the number of tourists nowadays?
We have more than almost approximately 145 million nights were spent in Austria in the last year by tourists, and the trend is rising. And there are maybe several factors. This is the clean nature, the stress on organic products. It's also a very safe destination. And of course, I think the hospitality and openness of the people. And this makes Austria increasingly more and more popular.
That was my questions about the Austrian people, population. Welcoming people, very charming, and they like tourists. What can you tell us more?
Thank you for your nice words. It's always very difficult as an Austrian to speak about Austrians. But I think that because of our multinational and also multicultural historical past, the Austrians are very open and hospitable to visitors. And this hospitality and openness and friendliness is for sure one of the factors that a lot of people like to visit Austria, and many of them are loyal guests, so they do not only come one time to visit Vienna, but a lot of them are frequent customers, and many of them come every summer, many of them even to the same hotel and the same place, and some even for 50 and 60 years spend every summer
Wow.
in the same place in Austria. We know this because a lot of municipalities now in Austria give special decorations to, as we call it, very loyal guests. And so we know that a large number of these guests are coming there already 30, 40, 50, even 60 years every summer.
Amazing. Now I can see the books that Your Excellency gave to me. A book by Robert Haddad, A Man of Honor and Nation's Pride. And another book by Khalil Fatal and Joseph Abou Nohra, L'Autriche et le Liban, esquisses historiques et promenades à travers les petites histoires d'une vieille amitié. And one of the big trend of archives that you had in your embassy, Archives Impériales Autrichiennes. What can you tell us first about the book of A Man of Honor and Nation's Pride? He's Lebanese, as I see.
Yes. Let's start with General Haddad. This directly links to the question which we spoke before. It's the multinational and multicultural past of Austria.
Yes.
And this led also that in Austria, and you can call it a positive or negative thing, in Austria there's no Lebanese diaspora.
Okay.
There is, but a small one and not a historical one. And the reason was that when Lebanese immigrants came to Austria, they were very quickly integrated, and so they did not need to form a special group and stick together, because in the 18th, 19th century particularly, immigrants also from Lebanon were very quickly absorbed into the Austrian society and became Austrian. And one of the historic facts, for instance, is the story of Michel Fadlallah Haddad, who came as a young man to Austria. He was very talented, very successful, and he became one of the generals of the Austrian Imperial Army. So he became Austrian General Haddad. You can see a picture of him here in the uniform with the golden collar and the star. And this is I'm proud of it, because it's a sign that Austria always had been a very open society, and people who had talent, knowledge, they could make it. And
I would say a hero of honor.
A hero,
not
and
a man of honor.
Exactly, very nice words. And I think one of his descendants, who is Lebanese, Robert Haddad, there are several books about General Haddad, also in several, but I think relative Robert Haddad now published a book, and I think it will be in the next 2 or 3 weeks also now presented and being available here in Lebanon, the story of the Imperial Austrian General Michel Haddad.
And going back to l'Autriche et le Liban, Fatal's family, as I look and as I read, has a very good relationship with Austria.
Yes.
What's the secret about that?
As the family of Henri Pharaon or the family of Fatal, Catafago, many others, Austria has been, this is the historical role of Austria as one of the places of the Levante trade, that Austria already for a very, very long time had trade posts and also consulates, also in Lebanon. So the Austrian we had one of the first and oldest consulates in Tripoli, Beirut, and Saida, also in the Ottoman Empire. And also a lot of families, Lebanese families, worked together with Austria, and these families, the Austrian embassy is still in good contact with these families. And for instance, one of Khalil Fatal published a very, very interesting book about the historic and present relations, bilateral relations between Lebanon and Austria in the historical perspective, but also in the economic perspective.
Archives impériales autrichiennes relatives au Liban et au Proche-Orient.
Yes. This book, I see this book as honoring, and it also shows the high standard of Lebanese science. This is a very scientific edition of old documents from the 17th, 18th and 19th century about the relations between Lebanon as a part but always independent, autonomous part of the Ottoman Empire, and Austria in historical perspective. This is only one book out of many books, and this is a treasure box for people
Other
who are
volumes.
interested. Other volumes.
Exactly.
And this is a treasure box for people who are interested in historic research.
Amazing.
Yes.
Now, shortly and in a very brief way, we want to talk about women in Austria, women empowerment programs, women rights,
Yes.
and their development throughout history, their growth, balancing home and career. In few words.
Austria, as a democratic country, has a long tradition of striving to take care that women and men have exactly the same rights. So women can vote in Austria for political parties in the parliament since 1919. We have now, for the first time since June 3rd of this year, a lady as our Prime Minister, Madame Brigitte Bierlein. And Austria is also in the international fora, be it the UN and other fora, one of the proponents, active proponents, to take care that women's rights are not only respected but also enhanced. And nowadays, on a global level, of course, you have the reasons not only to secure adequate representation of women in parliament or in politics and economy, but on a global level, you have also more urgent questions, for instance, female trafficking, and other aspects. But Austria is one of the countries inside the United Nations who support that these problems should be solved in a global and international cooperation.
Thank you. Your Excellency, what's your message to our audience before closing up?
The message is, and I listened to the words of President General Woon carefully. What the world and also Austria can learn from Lebanon is that it's possible that different religions, social classes and aspects can live together, and the history of Lebanon shows that this is not friction-free. There have been conflicts, but the last 20 years show that it's possible.
Co-living.
The cohabitation, exactly. And it can be successful because it's always better for people of different ethnic background, different religious background, different social background to live together and cooperate. And this is always better and more beneficial than to quarrel. And this is the main message of Lebanon, that unity can be created from diversity. And this is a message for Europe, which consists of 27 different nations. And it's also a message for Austria, which now, of course, in the last 20 years, changed its population also through immigration. So this we have to also learn from Lebanon, and that's the main message that Lebanon can give. And my message would be, look at Lebanon and study it, assist Lebanon, of course, also in the turmoil of the region, but also learn from Lebanon.
Your Excellency, Mr. Marian وربا, Ambassador of Austria to Lebanon, thank you. We really thank you for your presence today. We are done, and we will reiterate this interview again and again. For best endeavors, we wish you best of luck.
Joel, thank you very much, and to you and also Mariam TV to invite me and give the chance to present my home city and also my home country to Lebanon and your visitors, your spectators.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Joel.
مشاهدينا، نحن وياكم لليوم خلص لقائنا من برنامج سفرة مع سفير، حتى برامج أخرى. بودعكم أنا جويل، والله معكم.